whatever. Ask me that question. Like, I've been there on both sides.
Two more hockey games must occur in the Colorado Avalanche season, so here we are. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche pregame show. We got Biggie and Rudo coming to you live as the Avs are taking on the LA Kings on the front side of a back-to-back to wrap up their season. There are probably multiple more interesting hockey games happening today than this Avs game, including your BU Terriers and including the Colorado Eagles. I don't know that there's a ton to say about this game, if I'm honest. The Avs are resting most of their best players, so expectations pretty low tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. I don't know. I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the winning side of things, meaning like my team going into the playoffs, and then just like the Avs, where it's like you're resting guys. It's the human nature. We've been talking about it for 10 days now. It's the human nature side of things, and you can say all you want as a coach, and he's not going to get that mad. He's not going to get that excited. You just want to get through him. And as a player, it's hard because take tonight for example. You get a couple call ups, and some of them got to be their first NHL games, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever. One of their first many, not many NHL games under their belt, and they want to make a good impression. And I'm not saying guys are going to go dog it. That's not what I'm saying. But you're not full throttle. You're not full tilt. There's a reason for that. They left everybody behind, so it kind of tells you like, oh, McCarr's not there, McKinnon's not there, Tay's not there. Like, you know what I mean? The list goes on. So it's like, okay, so it's not that important. So it's kind of hard because it gives you a little bit of a mixed match, and some guys trying, some guys still trying, but obviously, like I said, they're veteran players. They're just trying to get through it. And then on the bad side of things, let's say you're like Chicago Blackhawks. That's tough too. You know what I mean? Because you just want the season to just end. Yes, it is a National Hockey League game. Yes, it is a privilege to be in the National Hockey League. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying there's a human nature side of those games where at the end of the day, it's not full throttle. And don't think the LA Kings, I mean, again, it's a little bit of a different situation for them, right? I mean, standing wise, God, I should know that, but Avalanche are not going anywhere. It is what it is. And you know what? Get through it.
Yep. Wyatt Amott confirmed first NHL game. I'm not sure about the rest of the lineup, but
yeah. I knew there was one of them for sure.
The quest for 50 Avs does remain on the season if you count the playoffs. Still possible.
That's right. That's right.
Let's be honest, Ian, and we will talk about this game a little bit. Gabe Landeskog plays for the Colorado Eagles last night. He says he felt great. He is planning on playing today for the Colorado Eagles as well, as they're also on a back-to-back. Probably more important news than just about anything that could happen in this game.
Yeah, you're right. And I was wondering last night, obviously like everybody else watching the game, right? And obviously we had a nice presence there in Loveland there for that game, which was nice. And but I, like everybody else, like you, like everyone, I was excited to see him, and then caught myself when the game ended, like, oh, does he play tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, does he play tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
Yep.
Right? I'm not a doctor. I only play one on TV. We all know that. But I was like, that'll be a nice sign, you know what I mean? Or maybe I wasn't trying to be negative, but I was thinking to myself, oh, what if he doesn't play? I don't want it to be bad. You know what I mean? Maybe that was planned that he wasn't going to play back to back. But now that he's playing back to back, it can only be encouraging signs in my book. So that's a good sign. If it was not, if he wasn't playing and then the plan that he was going to play, then that could have been a bad sign. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for him. Obviously, limited presence. 5-5-5, right? Each period, 5 shifts. It's perfect. It was probably all planned that way, like we talked about. But man, oh man, was it fun to see the guy have a smile on his face, and that's all I cared about. It was to see him smile and to see him be, on the ice. It wasn't an NHL game, but it's certainly close to an NHL game, and it's still part of the Avs family. And it was great to see the guys in the stands, being there for him. And it was a great moment for hockey last night. I thought it was awesome for the American League. It's awesome. It's a great storyline.
Yeah, super fun. Obviously, Landy playing an actual game is unbelievable to watch, and it was probably far more interesting than anything we're going to see in this game, but also super encouraging. Landy looked pretty good, man. Like, obviously, he didn't play an absurd amount of minutes. Obviously, it's the AHL, but for a guy who hasn't played in what was it, 1,020 days or something, his game looked okay.
Yeah, and for me, what I was looking for is we've been talking about this all the time. Like, he's probably in great shape. The guy, he's the Viking, right? He keeps himself in great shape. The knee obviously is able to pass the test in the sense that he can still been practicing lately, and then obviously play a pro game yesterday. So obviously been cleared there to
Yep.
start playing games. So what I was looking for, me, it was more the reaction time, or more how's he going to getting the puck out of the zone, getting, making a play down low, not making a turnover, kind of engaging. I don't want to. I know it's not the NHL, it's the American League. It doesn't matter. There is a step behind, but mentally he is a step behind. He hasn't played in 3 years. So it was good, and I think it was important. And sometimes all you need is a couple games like this to get your timing and your brain back, obviously, to a certain level. And then, of course, whenever he plays that National Hockey League game, there will be another step. And I think it's going to take him a few shifts again just to get adapted. But certainly last night, tonight, those are big, important steps in that sense, where you got to get his brain connecting back to what he wants to do and his hands. And you might want to do something and then your body doesn't let you do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, let's just do it. Let's connect everything together. And we talk about 5-man units on the ice. It's the same thing for his own personal game. You know what I mean? The brain, the hands, the legs, the breath. You know what I mean? And like, it's not the same thing to chase someone for real, or if you're getting skated by yourself. It's totally different. And when you get out there, you like he said it yesterday, he was tired a little bit, which is very normal. And I think the more games you play, the better you get into what you hear all the time, game shape.
Uh, just to round it back into the Avs' actual game today, at Gabe Landeskog's return to hockey was a number of the Avs' primary players, including Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, Josh Manson, and Ross Colton. They were all in Loveland last night, so none of them are going to be playing tonight. They did not go on the trip to LA, which sets the stage for a depleted Avalanche lineup of thought. Not that any of them are particularly hurt. They'll all be back for the playoffs, except for maybe Manson. We'll see. They're fine, but that does set the Avs up for a game which has also seen the call-ups of Jack Ashan and Irianola. So, yeah, it's going to be the Avalegals tonight, basically.
And that's what's great. It's like I said, I wasn't downplaying it again, saying it was a nothing burger for whoever's playing their first NHL game, or second or third, whatever it is. It's the NHL. It's exciting, and it's an audition. We say that all the time, right? You and I, we talk about this on the show all the time. You're always auditioning, and even other guys, they get a little bit more ice, a little bit more piece of the pie, and we've been saying that. I think Miles Wood, for example, has taken a little bit more pieces of the pie lately, and he's actually answered the bell. Again, I don't know what's going to happen once everybody's healthy next week. And, knock on wood, you have a healthy lineup. We're not part of the coaching staff, even though we act like we are. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. So I think every game's important, you know what I mean? And I don't want to downplay that for those guys like Sean, and I'm like, their parents are watching or at the game, and you know what I mean? Like, it's awesome. It's the NHL. It's why I don't want to lose track of that. Don't want to lose sense of that. It's very important that we remember that. But yeah, I think for the Avalanche, the slogan we say all the time, you can be about winning or you can say you're about winning. And I do believe Nathan MacKinnon made a statement there a little bit, right? In a sense, I don't want to, he's injured or whatever he is, but he could have gone for that scoring title. You know what I mean? And said, no,
For
I'm
sure.
playing. And I think, and again, that just shows you. And you can be about winning or you can say you're about winning. So I think those guys resting makes more sense than those guys traveling and playing back-to-back game and being in California and coming back. What does that do? It gives them, first of all, a weekend to stay at home and not get on the road. Not that it's far, but you're not getting on the road. You're not putting mileage on your body again. And then you're there for your buddy Gabe that's been fighting like a dog for 3 years to get back. You know what I mean? So that gives them the chance to be at the game. So that's a plus. And then, they have the full week off, as you and I know. It's probably going to start next Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is, whenever they start to announce the dates. But that gives you a very nice little break for the Avalanche. And if whoever's nagging a little bit of injuries, then great. And then what do you do this weekend? Well, you get Sammy and guys like that to get back into it when they've missed a little bit. So a little bit of takeout, a little bit of guys going in because they've been on a little bit of a break. Well, we all know they were injured, but it's kind of nice to see, again, a guy like Sammy G back in there tonight.
Yeah, the Toyota chat asking about Landy's timeline a little bit. I think it does make a lot of sense for him to play tonight. The Eagles' next game would have been Wednesday, April 16th, which is a bit odd. One, I think it's only a 5-day conditioning stint that you're really allowed to do without getting an extension in the AHL. I know you can get extensions if you need them, but the
Well,
other side of
that's
that is the Avs season ends tomorrow. So if he plays tonight and then joins up with the Avs for their couple of days off and then their practices leading into the playoffs, I'm not saying Landy for sure is going to play game one with the Avs or anything, but the timeline lines up pretty well if he plays again tonight and then rejoins the Avs for a couple of pre-playoff practices.
yeah. And again, would I be surprised that he plays Wednesday? It wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
Sure.
And I know, and I know, like you said, there's rules and all that stuff. But let's just put it this way:
They're fake rules,
the
Jay.
NH, well, let's just put it this way: the NHL and this is like I think you got to put these things on hold a little bit. When a guy hasn't played in 3 years, it's not the same. Sometimes you got to have a
Sure.
little bit of common sense, and
Yeah.
I think that if he needs to play Wednesday, common sense will prevail. And I'm not saying he is playing Wednesday. I don't know what the plan is. Again, like I said, I only play a doctor on TV. I'm not a doctor. I'm not part of the plan. But we don't know. And if he does play, then and there's rules against it, I'm sure that, what I mean, common sense would prevail. And then if he doesn't, and now part of it was just to play this weekend, then so be it too. And then all of a sudden it's all good. Then he gets those intense practice this week. Because the Avalanche are gonna have a few intense practices this week. You have to,
Yep.
right? They haven't
Yep.
really practiced. And so it's important. And then you're not gonna practice after for a long time. So in between games, you don't really
True.
practice. And so those are a couple of important practices, and he's not gonna miss those this week.
Yep. It'll be it'll be interesting and fun to watch the timeline. On the flip side of tonight's game, LA does have a little bit to play for. They are trying to hold home
Yeah.
ice against Edmonton in that 2 seed in the Pacific. So you do expect a decent effort from them, E. I don't envy you coming up with 3 keys for this one, but what do you have for this one that the Avs said? Is winning even on your 3 keys tonight, E? What do you got?
It's funny. I told Tiff last night. I sent it to her last night. I'm like, it's the same 3. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm using Bednar's words. I said, just put the same 3 keys. Engagement. Now that goes for the Woods of the world, right? That are getting a little bit more ice, and that goes
Sure.
for the call-ups, the Inalas that hasn't, been here in a long time. It goes for the goaltending, whoever's. I don't even know who's playing tonight. They said one of them's going to get a game each, right? So, I don't know if Mackenzie's in tonight or.
Blackwood's in
Uh,
tonight.
yeah. So, and I'm assuming so tomorrow Wedgwood will be in. So again, important for the goalies. You're assuming you might get peppered a little bit compared to usual when you're looking at the lineup, but on the other side of things, you never know. So I think it's important that if you're putting on the jersey, put everything aside that we've been talking about for 10 minutes there or for 10 days. You got to be engaged. So that would be key number 1, like last game. Key number 2, well, it's habits. You're going to hear coach talk about it. And same thing for some guys that you never know. I mean, again, knock on wood, injuries, whoever gets the call to go play. And you want to make sure your habits are on point. You want to make sure you get playoff habits. And that goes for a guy like G that hasn't played in a little bit. That's going back into the lineup tonight. I think it's important for him, again, in a mini scale, Landeskog hasn't played 3 years and then he plays those 2 games, right? This weekend. Well, for a guy like G that's missed a little bit, I think it's an important game to get back into and get engaged and get into some good habits before obviously some solid practices this week before playoff starts. And then number 3, Very simple. Engagement habits, and number three would be knock on wood, like we always do, health. And you want to get out of there healthy, and that's just any team. That's not just the Avalanche. So play the right way, engage, have habits, and be intense a little bit, then usually that takes care of number three. And knock on wood that nothing freaky happens, and you move on. Like you said, is it important to win or lose? It's not going to really get matter whether they win or
Yeah.
lose. So I don't think it's important at all. So I think it's more find the little wins, and then if you do happen to win the game, hey, it's the NHL. Like we said, it's fun to win in the NHL, so might as well try to go win, right? And the competitive juices flow, and you try to win once the puck drops, and that's the only thing you can do.
E, I talked about this the other day when you weren't on the show, but I want to pick your brain on this because I know you're very much on the side of it's hard to flip that switch back on. And
Yeah,
I think that conversation comes down to I don't think it's that hard to flip the switch of putting your effort level back up. But when you talk about those habits, that's where if you have formed some bad habits, you can run into problems of stopping doing those types of things.
yeah.
Is it feasible? Can the Avs have a low effort game with good habits, or do those things just go hand in hand and you have to be careful with that?
Well, a little bit, but here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to give you praises, and I hate doing that because I can't stand you. But you want me over? No, I
Careful.
do
The
stand
chat will think
Rudolph.
we hate each other.
I know, chat is a joke. I love them. Um, I do. Remember that one time they thought we were fighting? I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I
Anyway, not
know.
a big,
So
not a
funny.
big deal. I'm like, "Yeah, let's not get out of hand here." No, Rudo won me over. You won me over because remember, like 10 days ago, I was starting to panic a little bit. I'm like, "Oh God!" I was starting to get like red flags and my heart palpitation going. And I'm like, "Oh, I hate when they do this." And because I have flashbacks, and Rudo knows I have flashbacks of Avalanche 1.0, and you talk about the 98 series. We're up 3-1, and then we
Yep.
lost Edmonton in 7 games. And for me, I remember the Mike Keens and Claude Lemieux of the world talking about those things, saying you can't just flip a switch. You can't. And again, you got to remember, I came from teams where in LA we weren't making the playoffs. I'd never heard of that, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh yeah, they're right. You know what I mean? And then if you look back at that season, we struggled with it all year. We struggle with that consistency, and having to not always be on, and not always have to switch on, and that stuck with me because I hate that series. You know what I mean? Ended up being my fault. That's why I got traded the next year anyway. But that's a different story. And then all of a sudden, Avalanche, the Avalanche right now, the addition of the 24-25 Avalanche is what you saw for that post deadline period for about 15 games. Why?
Yeah.
Because you have the new guys. For the first time, that was their team. And boy, oh boy, was that switch on. There was nothing wrong with having the habits, the switch. Everything was on point. Everything was good. And I think once you hit that right there, now all of a sudden guys are starting to, oh, it's not, nursing injuries, and it's like, oh, let's not force it. And all of a sudden, you're not really going anywhere in the standings. They made that run. It was amazing. And they made what, 3 points in the standings? You know what I mean? And it was like,
Yeah, it
what?
was
You know what I
dumb. It
mean?
was
Like,
dumb.
you know what I mean? And so then it's like, oh, so we have to do this again. And we're 5 points behind, whatever it was at the time. It's a big climb to do. It's just, and again, the other teams are good too, Dallas and Winnipeg and everyone. So I think the Avalanche, what you saw about the switch and the habits and the mentality, I think was exactly that stretch of like 12-1-2, whatever it was in those 15 games. And I think you're right. You've won me over. I don't worry about these last 5, 6, 7 games, whatever. They are what they are. And I know 2022, we lived it. And, I mean, all of a sudden, the switch was back on. The leadership group is there. They know what to do. The core knows how to win. The coaching staff knows how to win. Everybody's in sync. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it, at all, actually. You've won me over. That's why I'm giving you praises.
Let's go. Sometimes I get them right. Usually it's E getting them right, but every once in a while I
No,
hit out one.
we're
E,
always right.
it's pretty easy for the Ashans, the Amots of the world, to get up for a game like this. Ashan hasn't played a game in 3 years in the NHL, been playing in the AHL, Amot first NHL game. Even someone like Inala back in the lineup after a handful of stints earlier in the season. Those guys, sure, the effort will be there. They'll be doing their thing tonight. Is there something that some of these other guys like a Natchez or a Nelson that can find to motivate them in this one, or is it really just those three keys you mentioned?
Yeah, a little bit of like those keys, and maybe Marty. Like Marty's been gone what, 2 games, 3 games, whatever. Or is it like I
Well,
don't
he was
remember, but
back in
anyway.
last game, but yeah,
Oh yeah, sorry. So he was gone for a couple games, and we all know he had a couple tough games. We all know that, right?
yeah,
Let's not
yeah,
kid ourselves. And maybe that's you're talking about details, right? Key number two, maybe that applies to him. Let's make sure these next 2 games, it's a good exercise, and don't turn this into a pond hockey game. You know what I mean? Because it won't exist next week. It does not exist. You know what I mean? Playoffs are about details and engagement and intensity, and we all know that Marty can play hockey. We love him, you know what I mean? But just do it the right way, and it's a little different. So maybe for a guy like him, yeah, what I mean, where Nelson is built on habits, maybe his game, you know what I mean, not as
yeah,
talented as Marty, and maybe this game is just an easy game for him to play because it's like, all right, just brushing up on your stuff and making sure you're going. But you're right, and then the new guys, or the rookies or whatever, first NHL game, that's totally different. You're going
yeah,
out there and you're pumped, and you don't know when you're ever going to play again in the NHL. So, and I'm not
yep.
saying he never will. That's not what I'm saying. But take advantage of it when you're there, and that's how it works.
All right, I don't know that this crystal ball is particularly clear. There might be some cloudiness on this one, E. But what do you got? Give me a name. Give me a number for tonight.
I'm going with the potty, Marty Potty. Why not? I'm going with Marty Potty.
Let's go.
I just want him to. I tell you all the time, you a guy like that, you want him feeling good about his game going into the playoffs, right? You want him to feel good about putting the puck in the net, and so I'm going to go Marty Potty. And again, the Kings are so tough to beat at home this year, and like you said, they're playing for a little bit, tonight, so maybe they'll be on their game a little more. But I don't know. Maybe does this go to overtime? 3-3, and then goes to overtime and flick a coin. I'm gonna go Marty Potty with a goal today for sure. That's what I'm saying.
We need no overtime, buddy. We gotta wrap it up quick, so I'm good to go for the Eagles game, so I can watch Landy again. All right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All right. I'm gonna go 5-0 Avs,
Oh, I
specifically
like that.
with goal scorers of Middleton, Johnson, Inola, Ashan, and Amott. Because those are all the dudes
Nice.
that
I
have
like
no
that.
goals for the Avs this year. So they're all going to get their one goal. But then my
I like
actual
that.
crystal ball pick is Gabe Landeskog because he's going to score for the Eagles tonight.
Oh, I like that. See, Chad, I told you this guy's a genius. Listen to him. Can you imagine if it happens? That would be
Um,
unbelievable.
that would be crazy.
We got to replay this clip tomorrow around worldwide before the playoffs start. Oh my God, that would be unreal.
It would be
I'm gonna.
something fun.
If
Uh,
it happens, man, I'm gonna give you a big hug, and I'm gonna be asking you every day now, like, what are your bets today?
the lottery tickets, they're out there. We do have some bets to get into. Make sure you're using Bet365. Get in with my pregame picks where it's never ordinary over at Bet365. My bets do reflect my expectation of the game today. I'll put it to you that way. You bet on the Colorado Eagles to win tonight. I bet on them to cover over the Henderson Silver Knights at plus 155. I do think Landy's getting that goal. I also took the Avs game under. LA, pretty defensive heavy team. They like to play low scoring games. We've talked about the Avs. Lack of punch in their lineup. So I'm not actually expecting a high scoring game from the Avs tonight. And then I took no goal in the first 10 as well, as I do think it might take LA a little bit to get into the game. It'll be fun. Maybe it might be a horrible game, I guess. I don't actually know, but Eric will have fun watching the BU game instead. So at least he's got that going for you.
Yes.
That'll be good.
Y-
You can bet on
Yeah,
that game too
yeah,
if you want, to be honest.
yeah. Western, I think, is favorite, right? One six minus 160. I think I'm not too sure. I think it's like West slightly favored. I'm excited. I'm gonna hop on over right after this. I'm right there, and hey, who knows, man? Play for a national championship game is fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. So you get excited for the kids, and man, I'm more nervous than them. I think it's hard to when you don't play. It stinks. sit in the stands, man. It's hard. And
Well, look,
but who knows? They'll be good. And then the Avalanche should have a good game. And like I said, we wish the best of luck to those call ups and everything. And then, like you said, Landy been playing. That's hey, listen, it's a great day for hockey when Landy's playing. So it's a great day for the Avalanche. It's a great day for Eagles Nation and Eagles country, whatever they call it down there. These guys have been unbelievable for 20 plus years, and you know that you saw it firsthand all those years, and it's an unbelievable place to play hockey down there. And those guys, their ownership group, and the original people to the new people now to whatever it is. I mean, they've been there forever, and a lot of the
yep.
same staff, and those guys do wonders. It was good to see them get a lot of national recognition yesterday. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, whether it's betting on Landy in the AHL or betting on the NCAA National Championship, make sure you do it with Bet365. Of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Just to pile on with you, Ian, give the Colorado Eagles a little bit of credit. I know a lot of people, that's the first time seeing the crowd up in Loveland, up at Blue Arena. And there's obviously a little bit extra there because it's Gabe Landeskog's first game in 1,000 days, but that's pretty normal. Like that crowd is always super into the games. They're always super loud. They are super duper diehards up there when it comes to the Colorado Eagles. So that I
I
covered big games in that building for years. That is that crowd is just always so good.
And the original, like Ralph Backstrom, Chris Stewart, obviously that came on
Yep.
board with Martin Land. Obviously, they were part of the Central Hockey League. Commissioner Brad Treliving, the Gary Bettman of the Central Hockey League back then, now the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, listen, it was a fun time. Eagles have done it first class, first class since they've gotten in there, and it's a love affair. And yeah, you're right. Well, the crowd you saw last night, those are what you see every night there for those games. And, they were sold out for years. And then I think they hit like whatever. Now I think in the American League, they've been sold out for 120 games in a row. So, again, a little bit more oomph in the air yesterday with Mr. 92 in there and
Yep.
maybe a little more coverage and, more media coverage and national coverage and all that kind of stuff. But same diehard fans that have been there game in and game out. And it's a love affair down there with hockey and Martin Lynn and his crew. Again, and Bacher and all the people that are there do an unbelievable job. And Gavin has been in their front office forever. That people, the crew is amazing. And, you got to raise and tip your hat to those guys. And it was fun to see last night.
Honest hockey player answer here. This time of year, these two games on the schedule, you're on a team you know is making the playoffs. Do you want to play in these two games, or do you want to be the guy sitting at home getting a couple extra days off?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said, and I'll say it again, because worked in management afterwards, and I always want those guys. I'm so glad that they said those guys that they didn't bring them, the top end guys. Now, as a bottom of the, I don't want to say barrel because they're NHL players, and I was one of those guys. But when you're at the bottom there, I wanted to play. I didn't want anyone to look good and take my job. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure you're out there and you perform good, and you're like, I'm in. I'll play. I'll play. I got no problem. Now, if you were talking about a preseason game, yeah, totally different story. These are regular season games, and then you can still do good. And like I said, you're still auditioning for the guys at the bottom of the depth chart and the guys that are being call ups, whatever. A game like tonight, it does matter. It does matter, and maybe not for the cat, Kibby, meow. I'm kidding. No, I think it's important for the cat. You know what I mean? It's important for all those guys, and you again then knocking on wood that everyone's healthy next. Like those are tough decisions, right?
For
For
sure.
the lineup. So it's and those are great thing to have. It's not a bad thing because you're not, so again, like I said, knock on wood that everyone's healthy and everyone's coming back. Those are hard decisions and you're gonna, hurt some feelings. And again, everyone's gonna rally behind because everybody's a team guy and everyone's gonna, it's important to Stanley Cup playoffs. Your turn will come. But it's not easy to go tell someone that merits it to be in the lineup and congratulations to Aiden Thompson, DU Pioneer, right? Colorado
Yeah.
product from Northern
Yep.
Colorado, signing his ELC with Chicago. So his mom was a nice DNVR fan there. She comes to the bar. We watched the game together, the college hockey game together at the DNVR bar. So congrats to the Thompson family. That's awesome.
There you go. Good stuff all around for Colorado hockey. Expectations low tonight, but maybe they can at least make it fun and interesting. We are wrapping up the pregame show, but I do have a watch along coming your way, so join me for that. And then AJ will be jumping on for the postgame to I mean, let's be honest, we'll probably talk about this game a little bit and then a bunch of other stuff a lot because that's the time of year that it is. So that'll be what the post game is. Hop on over. The watch along will be going live in a few minutes. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us. This has been the DNVR Avalanche pregame show, and we'll see you in a little bit.
We all silly like the mayor.